Okay, so we're just going to set up a patrol route, and this is the simplest method I could find to kind of get a character patrolling around on a spline. There's various benefits to. Right, I'll shut up and get on the case. So I've just made an actor blueprint. So this is going to be our spline. So if we just go up to add component and type in spline, not spline mesh. So spline mesh is for kind of extruding elements, meshes down a spline, which I presume is quite useful for procedural generation of things like pipes and such like. Don't know, haven't used it yet. So I'm just giving it a sensible name. So patrol spine, incorrect obviously. Ignore that. That was a slightly more complex version of the spline system, patrol system. Okay, so I'm just creating a blueprint on the Andy zombie character. So I'm making sure that I add kind of spline and give it the correct naming conventions so that I can tell which elements are being used on the spline, so that I don't confuse the living daylights out of myself. So I just deleted all of those. I actually needed the on event play. So we're still, all of this is taking place in the Andy Zombie spline walk. So first of all, in my event graph, I'm going to add a custom event, and this is going to be move zombie, or zombie, as I like to sometimes call zombies. Well spotted. Okay, so that's actually the function. So what we're going to do is inside that custom function called move zombie, we're going to tell it exactly what is going to happen once we run move zombie. So what I need to do is then on event begin play, as soon as the game starts, we want to call that function. So as soon as the game starts, whatever we've put in move zombie, the custom event, is going to run. So this is kind of the complex bit. This is kind of beyond what you need to know at the minute, but it may be worth just getting used to kind of finding your way around in the blueprint window. So zombie patrol Mavui. So this is a timeline. Timelines are hugely important. Timelines can animate any number of elements of your game. So you've got at the top function. So I'm just creating a function. I'm going to animate a function, and I'm going to call that function alpha. And so what we do here is I'm just going to right click and put, or left click and put a keyframe in. I want it at 0 and I want the value to be 0. So an alpha value is between 0 and 1. So we want that at 1 and we want it to be value 1. So that variable, that float, is now moving between 0 and 1. That's we're going to feed that into our system so that it increases. Well, it's basically going to help it to follow the spline. I'm going to push it around the spline using this variable. Okay, so we've now got alpha on the timeline node. It's stuck it in there for us, made it visible. We're promoting that to a variable. I'm going to call that alpha again. So we're just getting that alpha variable out of the timeline. So we then want to take that over to, we want to find the spline now. So set actor location and rotation. So this is going to read the alpha value, and it's going to then set the actor position and rotation on the spline depending on that value, but we don't actually know the position on the spline at the moment. So we're going to make a object reference. Don't lose me at this point, I'm losing myself at this point. So track reference is a object reference, so I just need to find the object, which is the track. it's not object reference I'm looking for, it's actually the object. So this is similar in Unity to when you drop a game object into a field in your inspector. It's basically we're just setting up an object reference so it knows the object that it's going to be looking at. So yeah, I found the object. Again, it's that's a shortcut Unreal's given us to avoid too much fiddling about. We can just drop an object reference straight in there. So set actor, location and rotation. It doesn't know where the new location and the new rotation are, so we're going to get that object reference, which is the spline track. That's the object. It's very exciting stuff. And then we want to get the length, the spline length. No, got it in the end. So the target is the patrol spline. I've just deleted that thing that I needed. So we need to get the length of the, there we go, got the spline length. It appeared back magically as if by the power of editing. And then we're going to return the value out of there. That's because it's the length. We're going to so also we're going to lerp it, so linear interpolation. So this is where we use the alpha again. So we're moving the spline length, we're moving between the start and the end of that using our alpha value. It's a little bit complicated, and I shouldn't have connected both of those connectors. So we need to be looking at, it's going between 0 and 1, and so B is 1 and A is 0, but effectively it's moving between the start and end of our spline because it's got our spline length. So we need to return that value into the location. Just trying to clean it up a bit. Know what a tidy man I am. So this I think is for the rotation. Okay. Okay. So that is actually working out the position of exactly where we are along the spline, feeding that into the distance, and then I'm going to move that return value into the new location of the actor. So all of this is getting fed back into the actor. So I just need to repeat that for the rotation. So again, the target is the patrol spline. So and also we need to find the coordinate space. It needs to be world. It's not directly. It's not the coordinate space as linked to the local object we're talking about. Otherwise, that'll confuse the living daylights out of us. It needs to be a world coordinate. It's moving it in the world. Okay. So basically we need to tell it at what speed it's going to move along the spline. So in this case I'm just going to try plugging in a value. So zombie patrol move, we should remember, is the timeline. So again what's happening here is that this is setting the play rate of our patrol, sorry, our timeline. So as soon as move zombie function starts, it sets the player rate. I'm just going to try a nominal value that plugs into the timeline. So I need to now set up the actual timeline in the level. So let's drag in the patrol route. So you can see the little nodule coming off it. That's your spline point. So the hugely important thing obviously about splines is that you can kind of readjust them if things aren't working, which, you know, if it's not hard coded, I think I'll put that up in the air. If it's not hard coded, then then it's much easier to adjust, certainly for designers. So that's not working. There's a number of reasons that's not working. It's because I haven't. I'll show you in a moment. It took me a few minutes to work out why there was nothing there. So back to the spline. So if you select the endpoint of the spline, if you press Alt, you get a new spline point. Move that. And so I'm going to keep it on this side of the island in the middle. Obviously that's your safe point. Safe, not save. So I'm just looking down here. So I've got the character selected. I'm just trying to find the reference to the variable that I set up. So there it is. So if yeah, so basically I made the track reference variable, the object variable, visible in the world outliner. Sorry, the details panel. So I've just used the dropper to select the patrol route. I'm going quite fast here, sorry. So really I was right, so yeah, it is working, but he's flying. Quite a smooth curve though, and you got to round the corner. So I'm just going to kind of fiddle with this and kind of put some more spline points in. I can see now using my eyeballs that that's about 10 feet in the air. So really, you know, this is where splines come in handy. There will be some way of adjusting the handles on that spline. I haven't found it as yet. I shall try to get that into a video by the end of this this set of videos. But it's a godsend really having the splines, because you can adjust them all. You can adjust the way they turn. You can put more splines in. So what we're going to do finally is we'll just get all these splines in place. And then we just make it a closed loop. So I just put a free spline loop in there, a free point loop in there for the purposes of testing. So he's off there. So we can see there's some speed issues there, obviously. Looks like he's on a skating rink. So what we do here is we'll just go back into that rate there. So you can make that into a variable, but I'm just, for the purposes of this exercise, for simplicity, I'm just going to have a set value. So now effectively not moving at all and floating off the floor. So I've kind of had a bit of a fiddle here. And so I need to basically fix his orientation, but he is moving around the spline, and so you can see it's really for the purposes of testing his direction when you're playing the game, you know, and working out the timings. So next thing I need to do really is put the game logic in so that he's got a line of sight so that he can see you. So I'm going to sprint across here. Again, as I said, this is probably the most tedious level design ever, but we're going to fix that soon.